So closely related to the killer is category number 11, which brings us to number 71, is the control freak. I know we've mentioned the controlling aspect before, but we're going to get into like the control freak. And this is how people often report how shocking it is how controlled that you will be. And the people who really agree with this are people who are willing to go all the way out and try. Sadly, some of them have very young children. That's why they're trying, or something, more honorable like that. But sometimes people get trapped into being controlled this much through lust, or through they bought the pity sob story, and they just can't ever fathom leaving someone with that big of a pity sob story, or that it's very super important somehow to save that person. And they just don't know. They don't know what a lie that can be, and how there's other answers to that situation. But a lot of times it's through their own kind of lust and addiction to the narcissist, or a people addiction. But that just leads to every single minute of every hour of every day being controlled. Cameras installed, or the equivalent, and tracking you on phones, computers, emails, profiles hacked, following you, always watching your social media. And you can pretty much count they're trying to stalk your social media regardless. Even if they broke up with you, whatever. They believe they own you and your thoughts and your ideas and your friends and your life and everything about you. You must agree with them. You must agree with these people, the control freak. You have to agree with their ideas completely, or they're deeply offended. You have to see the world the way they see it. They're deeply offended to the point of cutting off friendship with you. And sometimes we want people to believe us and validate us, and that's normal. That's a different thing. We want people to believe and agree with us on important things, that where we were, for example, like if we were hurt. If someone hurt us and we came and said, hey, so-and-so did this and it hurt. We want someone to say, I'm sorry that hurt you. And even if they don't believe that someone meant it, or if they doubt parts of your story, they're not just going to throw it all out and say, honey, you're making stuff up again. You're like this. You lie a lot. You lie and make up that people are hurting you. They're just complete invalidation. So it's normal to want a normal amount of validation, but this is a whole different level of, these people can be honestly deeply offended that you did not completely agree with them on an idea or a business plan, that you wouldn't go in with them on it. Like, if I had a business plan and I was looking around for people in my life that may want to go in with me on it, I wouldn't be so offended that somebody said that's not for me, or I don't have the money or the time right now, or the energy. I wouldn't be so offended by that I would know that I was going to have to block that person forever and they were no longer my friend. But that's how they'll be. They're like, you can't be my friend anymore because you wouldn't do this, and I thought that you should have done it. Control freak, very desperate. Number 72, a manipulator. Their false beliefs and false reality is a very fragile house of cards, and it justifies it. Also, they've built it up to be super important, and it justifies everything they do. They'll justify it to say, well, I can't let that fall through, or everything falls through, so I can manipulate, control. Everything's justified and justifiable. This is why they'll harp on your weaknesses or things that you're insecure about, is to try to make you less than, controllable. They're desperate to win. Sometimes they'll be desperate to even win a board game, childishly. And they will not respect you. Obviously, all of this is disrespect, but this is often why they're tearing you down even in the love bomb stage. They're already devaluing. And especially if you have wonderful traits. They have to one-up that. They have to put their foot on top of that. Sometimes they have to completely, utterly destroy and crush that. Extremely manipulative. They have to learn how to get into you and move you around and move you at their whim easily. This is why they'll lie in a heartbeat, because that's one of the easiest ways to manipulate someone. That's sometimes the only way to really manipulate people, is some form of a lie. And they can manipulate amazingly. They get really good at it quickly. And very natural in controlling and manipulating and related behaviors. that we are so familiar with, such as the gaslighting, the projection, the blame shift, word salad, reality twisting, future faking, lying, pity sob stories, you name it. Emotional manipulator, because they're emotionally manipulated and weak a lot of times. They will lie at the drop of the hat to pull the biggest sob story, especially whenever they're about to lose control. My goodness. To mislead very unfairly, to emotionally manipulate is maximum manipulation with emotions, once more, emotions and words, to build those pictures that aren't even real and to put them deep into you, where it's hard for you to let go of it. Both the words and the emotions are lies. Whenever you feel emotions inside of you, those emotions are lies. Whenever you have ideas in you about that person, that is a lie. This helps me because it helps me to separate it and to say it will go away when I deny it. When I refuse to believe it, and when I call it a lie, and I refuse to feed it in any way, emotions that I have will die. I'll laugh at them. I'll laugh at the abuser. I'll mock the abuser. They deserve to be mocked at that point. I'll mock all of it and the game, and I'll laugh at it until it dies. It will die and fade and go away. It's all a lie. So, whenever they put feelings, they can put feelings in your heart, in your mind, and in your body. That's something that's important to understand as an empathic person. You can have feelings. Something about your body starts being manipulated and lied to, and your body will respond to the lie in a myriad of ways. And you may even cry or anything you do, though. I mean, sometimes if it can be healthy to let yourself cry or whatever. As long as you know that and can understand, there's a lot of power in understanding the feelings that you literally feel in your body. You can literally hold feelings in your body that they put there. It's not your fault that your body is lying. It's not your fault because you're not the one who decided to lie. You didn't believe that lie knowing it was a lie. They decided to lie. Where you have to take responsibility is to step up and say, I'm going to call this a lie and I'm never going to believe it and I'm going to start laughing at it. I'm going to deny it and refuse to believe it and tell myself the truth repeatedly and binge watch the information and the videos and the blogs and journal it out myself and read the Bible, and I'm going to laugh at the lie until it goes away. And it'll go away fast once you don't feed it anymore. But your body will even lie. It's important to know that as an empath so you don't get confused. Your body can hold entire powerful sensations that they put there in your body. As long as you can notice it and take note of it and watch it and say, that is a lie and it will go away. You have power over it and it will go away. And it has nothing to do with reality and it's not your fault. There's many tactics that go into manipulation. That they can confuse you, they can bully you, they can force you, arm twist you, they can put you into duress. Manipulation. There's a lot of different ways. And then the worst part is whenever they trick you into blaming yourself for things that you were forced into. And there's all sorts of confusing scenarios that can happen in. That's why I'm really big, and a lot of people are really big on don't do victim shaming and blaming. And why it's good and important to have a history of and constantly build in your life powerful compassion, powerful service for others, powerful giving and love, and being there and comforting and supporting those in need as much as you can, because that is like a bank. And not only is that wonderful in every way, and you'll get all kind of rewards that can't be measured, and God will reward you in everything, but that's a bank account against this kind of manipulation of when somebody comes to you. And a lot of times, though, when you are the genuine giving kind, you'll never see it. You'll never understand how giving you are, and you will blame yourself before anybody else will. So that's hard too. You will gaslight and blame yourself and say, I did this to myself, when you totally didn't. Because you see others the way you are. You'll be seeing the manipulator as this giving, wonderful, kind, compassionate person. Way more than they really are. So that is a confusion. But a lot of times, like when you know you're a giving person, that can be helpful. A maturity over time of when somebody comes along and does something that's so completely out of character, that is something that you would never, never dream of doing to someone else, which is a very frequent um, characteristic of evil, is priding itself in coming up with horrible things that you would never dream of. So sometimes when the evil is of extreme violence, that's a blessing in disguise because you'll never be gaslighted by it. You'll be like, nope, I would have never dreamed of sneaking up behind someone in a back alley with a tire iron. That's not what I ever do. That is a wicked dog. I don't do that, and you're never gaslighted by that. Whereas if it's something a little bit more sneaky, you'll beat yourself up, you'll blame yourself, and people tend to blame themselves when there's violence anyway, and that's a sad thing. But yeah, there's a lot of just do not blame and shame the victim because you didn't ask for that and you don't do that to other people. That's just my take on that. So manipulation is very tricky, and there's a lot of different, especially whenever you're young and inexperienced and this has never happened to you before, you can get completely blindsided by some of these gaslighting scenarios of manipulation. One way of manipulation is 73, a seducer. They will seduce you into their seduction and gaslighting lie vortex. And seduction can be a lot of different things. It's best done whenever you have a natural need that's not filled or seems to not be filled. Like Dana Morningstar will say, to fill your own buckets so that you will not be coming into a situation with what feels like empty buckets and say, oh sure, fill my buckets for me. Like validating yourself or already feeling like you're plenty, you're enough. You just different ways that you will feel like you are empty can be taken advantage of. So in this vortex of the gaslighting and the lie and the seduction, be extremely wary of energy pools. A lot of times they will do the crazy making or the chaos building where oh, my aunt is rushed to the emergency room and I need a ride. And if it's kind of like a sales thing, if they can get you to do one thing for them, that they're way more likely to be able to get you to do lots of things for them. After a while, you won't know where to draw the line. Energy pools, throwing you off balance constantly with either emergencies or accusations or what seems like an urgency, or that they're falling to pieces and they need to be supported and they need to be somehow helped. Energy pools where you are required to do something to help them. You are demanded very strongly. You have to help them. It's super pitiful. It's super pathetic. It's so sad. You're the only one who can help them. You're the only one, and they need help really bad. It's an energy pool. And sometimes it bizarrely feels like energy being sucked from you. It's just, I don't know how to even define that, but it happens. And sometimes if you even look at a photo of them, you can feel energy being sucked away from you toward them. Things like that. But beware of the complexity of this, what I'm calling the vortex, the swirls, the energies. That's another reason why it's important just to block their photos, block all contact, block their emails, block their text messaging coming to your phone, and on and on. Block that ability for them to trigger an emotional, energetic response in your body. Beware of fear, obligation, guilt, crazy making, pity stories, because sometimes they'll come in and one of the ways that they'll control you is they'll just mess up your world, mess up your life somehow. And you won't even know it's them sometimes, like the misplacing your car keys or the making you late or flattening your tire or whatever, turning your hot water heater off, or, just you name it, just putting something in your shampoo bottles, or, doing something to your pet, sadly, just on and on. Just messing up your world and making things that just don't make sense. Losing stuff that must be found. But beware of them taking advantage of if you do have high ideals and high expectations, they'll seem to match that. They want to know what your standards and expectations are anyway, so they can match them and fit in. Beware of feeling energy changes and suction from you, like it being exhausted by them and them not giving you a break and you asking for a break being a narcissistic injury kind of thing. Beware of storylines and future faking. And don't believe just whatever they tell you. Outrageous, outlandish things they tell you. Emotional and mental hooks that they can put in you and on you. Emotional and mental hooks. Big, especially emotions and words. And a lot of times they will either have the emotions very strongly or they will seem to. Beware of strongholds that you have and old injuries that you have that they could take advantage of. Vulnerabilities of life that you're in if you recently lost a loved one or a pet or are having an emergency yourself. That can be taken advantage of any way that you're weak and vulnerable. And I'm not saying don't be weak and vulnerable because you can't help it, as much as you may need to get away from certain people while you're weak and vulnerable. And your virtues and values will be mirrored and aligned with. They will appeal to you, and you won't know that they're faking any virtue or value. You'll think it's real, but you can kind of ask God for red flags and watch out for them and do not dismiss them. Put brakes on. When you see red flag, put the brakes on. And if you're too emotional to want to put brakes on, that's a red flag. That person should be healthy enough to say, I want to put brakes on because of you. You might be a narcissist. If they're not thinking they want to figure out who you are, that's a red flag. So they will appeal to you in a variety of ways, such as your value system. They'll use sales pitches, influence, desire, drunkenness, including literal drunk on alcohol. They can get away with a whole lot more when they get you drunk. Just saying. Drunk on feelings, drunk on power, and all of this is doorways to hell. So, category number 12 is very important because due to the idolatry alone, they are number 74 sexual perverts.